again, good friends. Brian from Apex Detail. This is yet another installment of Mail Call, where I get to answer your questions face to face, where nothing can get lost in translation, trading emails back and forth. I hate wasting your time or mine, so let's get right into this. Evan, first of all, admits making a rookie mistake. Admitting that mistake and correcting it, that's a huge step right there. He clayed and then protected without polishing. And then under the right lights saw that there was marring from the clay. Yeah, heavy, medium, and even light grit clay will mar. That's why I put a plastic bag over my hand or with a rubber glove feel. And I only will clay when, where, and if it's needed. If I don't feel anything, I'm not going to clay because I know I'm going to have to follow up with a polish to get rid of the marring because it will mar your paint. So he wants to remove the protection. He did apply the last coat and then get to those love marks and get rid of those on new paint. And he wants to do that without removing a lot of clear. So this is a way that I can guide you as to how to do that. I'm not sure about the last coat. The first edition of the last coat was scrap. I didn't even make a video on it. I guess they made another version and it's stronger and I guess more resilient. So I'm not sure what it's going to take to remove that. You may need a medium cut polish and maybe a Eurofiber 50/50 pad to get rid of that junk and then start working into your marring. Without the protection, it would only take something like 3D1 and a light foam polish pad to remove that marring, and you would remove it without hardly any clear being measured that you're removing from the finish. However, with that protection, I'm really not sure what it's going to take to remove that stuff because I don't know what it is. Did they add Teflon to it to make it stronger? Bump in SiO2? I don't know. So I'm going to guess it's going to take a medium cut polish and the Eurofiber 50/50 to burn through that and then correct your problem. Then protect it the right way and then practice safe maintenance on it to sort of stay away from introducing more love marks to it. Next question from Kenneth Smiley. He wants to know how to detail the hood liners. He saw a lot of videos teaching how to detail engine bays, but not the hood liners up above there. And the way I do it is I will pre-treat it with a mild cleaner and then gently hit it with the steamer, staying back far enough that I don't damage those fibers up there. And then another way you can do it, if it's really stubborn, is pre-treat it, steam it, get the warm mist up in there, and then use forced air like an air chuck. Again, using common sense and staying back far enough or using a nozzle that's not going to put the full force of that pressure on that liner and damage it and blow it apart. So you can clean those up and improve it. It takes a little bit of common sense not to rip them apart using something that rips them apart. So first, just use a gentle cleaner and the steamer back far enough away that you're not putting a ton of pressure on it. And a little bit of forced air from one of those tornadors will work. Again, backing away with common sense so you're not putting the full force of that pressure on there, and you'll be successful. The next question, and a couple of these in here are about me, more so than other days, so I'll handle that. I normally don't share too much about myself, wasting time trying to get you guys information pertinent to detailing, but I have no problem with sharing information on me. Jeff wants to know how I got into detailing and when. That was in the late 80s. 1988, I needed a job to support my first car and insurance, and it needed a lot of work because it was an old used car. I got a job working in a body shop, mostly wet sanding and then cleaning up cars as they came out of the paint booth. And I needed to use the rotary. I needed to master the rotary and wet sanding in order to keep a job back then. There were no dual action polishers, and none of the equipment we have today, no forced rotation. It was a big, heavy 8-pound rotary with 7-inch pads. We didn't have the pad selection or backing plate selection back then. It was big woolly pads that made you sneeze your ass off, and this heavy rotary that build up your muscles, and you needed to learn wet sanding in order to keep a job. So as cars would come out of the paint booth, I would get them to clean them up because you would have Bondo dust everywhere in the interior, and that's started to get into my blood then. I was detailing cars before that. My parents cars as they were getting new vehicles and used vehicles for their lot. They owned a car lot and a towing company and other shops that had to do with vehicles. So cars going out onto the used car lot, I would clean them up. And the bug, it just got into my blood then. It was therapy to me then. It is now. So I kept that job until I started a trucking company, and I did that for 15 years and always had an N bay saved just for me so I could keep detailing. Other bays for trucks to get maintenance or serviced, and then an N bay that I kept for myself to detail. I just kept detailing. If I didn't have to go out on the road, if everybody showed up for work, I was at that N bay detailing. And it was just something I kept doing and something I couldn't let go. And then when I finally reached the end of the line with the trucking company, I went full-time into detailing then. And I've been doing that for quite some time. So detailing has been a part of my life for a good 31 years or so. I'm approaching 50, and it's been a huge part of my life and a huge part of my life professionally. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, it was in a body shop at 1988. Okay, the next question. Mohammed wants to do a correction so we can ceramic coat a Mercedes C220. But the readings as he took, he has a paint depth gauge, and the readings are low. That car has probably been detailed many, many times by now. 1998. Who knows what could have happened to it in between that time. If you can get away with it, I just showed in a recent video how to do enhancements or one-steps. If you can get away with an enhancement or a one-step and maybe have a nice conversation with that customer about expectations, and then protect that car, put a nice layer, put that coating on there, you will be just fine. But yeah, an enhancement or a one-step will get that done without removing a ton of clear. The next question is about me again. George wants to know, he wants to actually give a compliment to my wife or girlfriend who gives me all the time so I can work, do the videos for you guys, and then also have time for my toys like the C3 that I'm doing a video. And actually, to answer that, it's just been me and my son for the last 11 years. He's been without his mother. I raised him since he was 10 years old, and he's now 21. So I have, unfortunately, all the time in the world to get done what I need to get done. But yeah, thanks for asking. I appreciate it. Okay, next, Ben Runkle has two great questions. How do I store my Trizact discs? The same way I store all of my wet sanding paper, and that is in a lidded or a sealed container with a little bit of moisture in there, so I could just grab them right out and start using them. Yeah, I keep them in moisture, Tupperware, ice cream tubs, whatever you can find that you can, plastic where you can put a lid on it. And the second question, how do I approach getting rid of stubborn tar and when? Well, after the wash process, right before claying and decontamination, I'll grab the Citral 266. And it's hard to keep that in stock. Luckily, I have a Farmers Ag Center that sells that locally. I know it's expensive online, and I feel bad about that. In my area, it's a little over $8, so I grab it by the case, and I go through a ton of it because it's successful in removing a lot of stuff. You have the Goo Gons and all that other stuff at your local stores that you could pick up, but the Citral 266, it just seems like it's not quite as harsh as some of these chemicals out there, yet I still flush immediately after. I don't take any chances, especially with clear coat. Next, Andrew has two questions. He's going to apply Chemical Guys HydroSlick to a newer charger, and he has two questions on that. And one, how long to wait in between coats? And I do advise two coats on that. It's not the strongest when it comes to durability out there, but it really does do a great job in gloss, so it's not all negatives with that. Mixed reviews with me on HydroSlick. 2 hours minimum, but wait, if you mentioned you can wait the 24 hours, if you could wait a full 24 hours without putting that second coat on and then layer it, it's going to be beneficial, because I mention it in a lot of my videos with SiO2 products. Minimum of 2 hours. you could take it out into weather, free flowing water, and you're going to be fine. But waiting 24 hours just gets the most slickness, the hardness, and the most gloss out of it for some reason. It's just the way it is with SiO2. So if you can wait 24 hours and then apply it, go ahead. And when it comes to applying it to tires, I can just tell you it will not bond well and not last long at all on rubber. The next question comes back to me again, and Simon wants to know, have I always been a detailer? With the last few videos with me redoing the C3 mechanically, I know my way around the car. I'm not a master mechanic. I don't claim to be anything professional when it comes to mechanic, but I know my way around a vehicle because I had a trucking company for a long period of years, and we had to maintain them. So similarities and a lot of differences between automobiles and trucks, but the same premise, common sense has to deal with that. So I do know my way around how to throw a wrench around. So I'm mechanically inclined. I can do a little painting as well. Again, not professional. I wouldn't say I'm up there with any professional, but I can get a decent finish out of a paint can. And then detailing has always been my forte, finishes, and especially the last couple mils of a finish. Clear coat, that's my specialty right there. Okay, Alex wants to know how to clean off plastic or strip plastic before applying solution finish. He has been applying bead maker to his car, so he doesn't know how much bead maker is on there. He wants to strip that first. An AP bead maker's not really all that resilient when it comes to durability, so that should remove rather quickly. An all-purpose cleaner, cut 5-to-1, AP solution, using a brush or a sponge, a little bit of abrasiveness with both of those, combining that with the APC or an IP solution will work. A really good tip, something that strips plastic as well, is glass cleaner at full strength. That's another thing that works very well. And finally, John wants to know, I've been using the Meguiar's G110 version 2 for the past 10 years for one-step corrections needed before applying a sealant. Should I upgrade? I only use occasionally. If you only use it occasionally, every once in a while, every year, year and a half, just stick with it. There's no need to, even though there are a lot of polishers that are affordable, the Max Shine at a little over 100, 120, 130, the Torque, and also now the G9 from Griot's Garage. If that's working for you and you only use it every year, year and a half, and it still works at 100%, there's no issues with it, stick with it. Okay, guys, that is going to take care of this installment of Mail Call. Keep those questions coming in. I will apply the email link down below. I appreciate all of you. Your questions are great. You want to learn. You're inquisitive, and you're the best. Catch you all in the next video. And if you are enjoying the content from this channel, be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we have fresh content for you to view.